Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hello and welcome to the Apex Racing League Prototype Championship Round 8 from Fuji Speedway. I am Sam Fitzpatrick. I have got Morgan Burkhardt alongside me, along with Chaz Draycott, to bring you this crucial round of the championship as we enter the final two meetings of the season. Chaz, we've been having a fantastic season so far, and still a few of the championships are alive. And we visit this circuit for the first time in the series history tonight. And a circuit that, whilst has been popular since its inception on iRacing, still will be a fairly new circuit to many of the competitors out here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even just coming into tonight, I don't actually own Fuji as part of iRacing, which beggars belief, to be honest. But like you say, it's not a circuit that gets used that often. It's a real treat for any calendar, though. And, you know, cars like this, they really do suit this sort of circuit. Formula One's been here in the past as well. And, of course, Fuji does feature on the World Endurance Championship calendar from time to time, and it's just one of those tracks that's got a bit of everything. There's slow, twisty corners, there's absolutely monumental straight, and there's high-speed flowing sections as well. It's going to be a belter.
Absolutely, and Morgan, I mean, Chaz sort of going over some of the circuit characteristics of this track. I mean, the thing that always stands out to me is that straight. I mean, it's so long that in single-seaters, you can overtake someone halfway down the straight and then be re-overtaken down into turn one. I mean, it's really quite a mix-up compared to any other circuit, which really doesn't have a straight of this length, unless you're going to someone like Daytona, really.
Yeah, for sure. It's got kind of an element of pretty much every track across the world. It's got tight hairpins, it's got chicanes, it's got long sweeping corners, it's got really technical sections, especially the last part of the lap. You know, you're coming in out of a chicane, and then it's a really tight right-hander, and then into some kind of doubling back on each other hairpins that lead onto really long straights. It's a very difficult track to get right consistently. So I think drivers are definitely going to be struggling with that tonight.
Yeah, absolutely agree. That final sector is very different to what it used to be, and well, some people are very fond of the old layout, which used to carve through the mountain, had an iconic first corner as well, which was very much from an oval before they ran out of money and had to make it into a road course instead. Was very unique, and yeah, the changes still make it an absolutely iconic track. Here are the point standings. Now, the top three last night had an absolute mare. We but Kyo Tiago Mate still leads the way. He's 21 points clear of Pascal Stix and Sven Newman. Both of them actually were on the front row of the grid last time out, but weren't able to consolidate that race win. And Mate still with a slight advantage, albeit with a bad drop score, so he can't afford a bad round. That was an incredible race last time out, Chaz, and dare I say it maybe was the best race of the season. It's difficult to tell just because of the drama. The top 3 in that race, the top 3 in the championship, all going out through different issues. And I mean, Marteau spinning out from 10 seconds in the lead with 5 minutes of the race to go. That's something that we never expected.
Well, no, I mean, even the clip that was doing the rounds on the socials just today and yesterday, you know, the main talking point until then was the fact that Sven Newman hadn't put enough fuel in the car, and he ran out of fuel, and we thought, oh, well, that's it, championship decided. And then all of a sudden, this mistake, like lightning, comes out of the blue from Kyo Tiago Marteau, and suddenly it levels the playing field again. It's absolutely incredible. So, yeah, we're set up for 2 amazing final rounds of the season then, going here to Fuji and then Barcelona, Catalunya next time out. But there we have the LMDH AM standings as well, and it's nice and close there, really, because Jack Wells, we seem to think, well, we were thinking that he had this sort of run on everybody else and he was going to disappear over the horizon, but it's not been the case.
Yeah, Fabio Grosseto picking back some points. He beat him by 1 position back last time at Hungaroring, despite a spin. Grosseto probably has had the pace over Wells this season, but Wells has been absolutely rock solid and fully deserves this title should he be able to convert on it. Very much a two-way battle, so you can see Sasha Engelhardt spinning out well, I'm seeing it on my screen at least. Sasha Engelhardt made a mistake. Anyway, in the LMP2 Pros, we have currently got Anders Meyer romping to the title victory, really. Alexander Delachaz in second place, but Meyer has been very tricky to beat and was very strong last time out. Really, it's a battle for second place between Delachaz and Moldovan, which should be the good one to watch. And in the LMP2 AMS, it is looking quite good now for Emmanuel Gacher. He wasn't ahead going into Hungary, but he had a much better round than Harley Smith. And with 2 rounds to go, really he just needs to finish within a couple of paces of Smith at each of these next 2 rounds, and he should be all good. And well, it was a fantastic performance from Walk Racing last time out. They were really on top form, and so fully expect them to be backing that up here tonight. How do we expect the multi-class action to work around here, Morgan? Do you think there's going to be many issues for these cars, or do you think they're going to be fairly comfortable dealing with one another?
Well, given that they have fairly similar cornering speeds, I think it's going to be a little bit difficult. The only real passing opportunities are going to be coming out of corners. The LMDH just has so much extra grunt coming off a corner than the LMP2s do. So it's going to be a little bit difficult. They're not going to follow too well with all of the aero that these cars use. So coming through corners, you're going to have to really plan ahead, and especially if you come up on a pack of battling LMP2s, and as the leading LMDH car, you're really going to have to plan ahead and pick them off as you can. So it'll be kind of difficult. I'm anticipating a few issues.
Yeah, I think that's probably wise, and we certainly saw it last time out, Chaz. Just the lack of difference in the slow speed corners in particular in these cars. Like from turn 4 to the final corner, the LMDHs were maybe a second a lap faster. Like it was barely any difference. It was really interesting to see just how much better they are down the straights, and yet they could do absolutely nothing once it got down to a slow corner. And I feel like that could be repeated in the final sector tonight.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I was saying it last time out that these cars, they look so stiff and cumbersome when they're going through some of the slower corners on the circuit, and I think it's really interesting to see that there are those big similarities in their behaviour. So I'm excited to see how that sort of affects this tonight, because like Morgan very rightly said, you know, with the cornering speeds, there's not going to be that much difference. It's going to be the straight that makes the main difference here because of that grunt of the BMW. But still, I'm excited because it's just such a unique circuit. It's really strange to say that about somewhere like this, because on paper, you look at it and you think, well, no, it's got a bit of everything, so it's just like every other track. But it must be a nightmare to set a car up round here. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, having to balance that out, need to make the car raceable, and yeah, at the same time, of course, competitive around the corners as well. By the way, you might be thinking, what's gone on with the overlay? Why are the LMDH AMs ahead of the LMDH Pros? Well, that's because Johnny Gebhard is on pole position at the moment, and we have not seen this. We have really seen Tiago Marteau dominate the LMDH qualifying so far this season, and yet it is Johnny Gebhard and Noah Chia who are at the top of the LMDH category at the moment. This man, Fabio Grosseto, is not exactly far off, and he might even be able to go to pole position. The top 7 separated by just 0.3 of a second at the moment, by far the closest qualifying we've seen so far this season. And the drivers maximising this Fuji Speedway right now. But this man, Sven Newman, he could be very dangerous approaching the line. He's currently in 10th place. He needs a big improvement to give himself a chance at the title.
Yeah, he definitely does. He needs to push on. He's only now 16 thousandths off Frank Smits ahead, as there goes Keo Tiago Marteau to second fastest outright, though. He's still not as quick as Johnny Gebhard. Great to see the AMs really sticking it to the pro drivers here. And the thing is, I mean, coming to you, Morgan, when you're in a sort of AM class like this and you put in a lower class than the pros, for example, on paper, do you think it does much to a driver to really sort of put you off from pushing that bit harder, or do you just go out there and give it all you've got anyway?
I think a lot of the AM drivers here, they're just going out and they're driving. I don't think being an AM versus a pro really makes a difference. Most of the AM drivers probably want to be pros, so they're gonna push just that extra bit harder to try and get there. And I think that's what we're seeing with the AM car on the pole right now. They're taking a little bit more risk. They're pushing even harder. They probably put in a little bit more practice even. So you really got to be on top of it if you're a pro or an AM. And I don't really think it makes all that much of a difference.
Currently the top 6 now separated by 0.11 seconds, which is usually, which would be a small gap between first and second, let alone first and 6th out there. As currently at the top of the LMP2s is Anders Meyer, 3/100ths of a second ahead of Bogdan Moldovan, who had an absolutely crushing disappointment at Hungarian, was leading until the pit stops, then entered the pit lane in the wrong way. He cut the pit entry line and got a 40-second stop and hold, which probably has ended his chances at the title. And well, it looks like his chances of qualifying as well are coming to an end, because he's going very slowly and we've only got 25 seconds remaining.
Yeah, he's going really, really slow, isn't he? And obviously not getting that run down the start-finish rate. So unfortunately for him, it's just not going to quite work out, and he's not going to get that run. As we look now at Paul Joseph Clist in the Olympus esports car, currently 4th place in the LMP2 AM class, 3.8 seconds off the fastest time set at the moment. And you can barely tell whether these cars are on a fast lap or not around here, because it looks so cumbersome. Like I say, it looks understeery. It doesn't look like it's behaving. As Paul disappears, the session finishes, and that's going to be that. And it's going to take us to the grid with an AM driver at the very front. Love that. It
has. And I mean, I'm not especially pleased because it's messed up with our overlay, but I'm willing to, accept that for the sportingness of this, because Johnny Gebhard, what's a qualifying for Deutsche Payment Esports, who, remember, got a 1-2 last time out, but with their pro drivers. So incredible upset here on pole position for Johnny Gebhard. Second place is Keo Tiago Marteau, and then it's Noah Chia. Should not underestimate that. I mean, 3rd place for an AM usually would be astounding, and yet he's been trumped by his amateur rival. Frank Smits starts in 4th place, looking for his first win of the season. Then it is Sven Newman, who needs to win tonight really to keep his championship hopes alive. Kevin Krosny, Sergio Engelhardt, Fabio Grosseto lines up in 8th. Then it's Kevin Duguay, Mark Zoidov, Jack Wells, championship leader, Kevin Cheyenne in 12th. Then it's Guillaume Kempfer, Pascal Stix with a very disappointing qualifying, but he didn't do qualifying. He didn't have a qualifying ban. Hopefully we see him out on the grid, albeit it hasn't gridded up yet. Then it's Marcel Vandenberg, also not setting a time. In the LMP2s, Anders Meyer is at the top, only just clear of Bogdan Moldovan. Expect those to be glued for the entire hour-long race. Then there's Emmanuel Gachea, Sam Coleman, Alexander Delachaz, Justin Adekonis, Harley Smith, Louis O'Raya, and Paul Joseph Clist, rounding out the 24 drivers that we have for this evening of racing. And Morgan, I mean, for these drivers off this start, they can basically launch about halfway down the straight. This must be quite a scary prospect for them with that big braking zone at the end of the straight.
Yeah, they're going to be getting up almost to their qualifying speeds. They're just on a normal race lap into turn 1 on lap 1 on cold tires. They don't really have any time to warm anything up. So you really got to be careful about it. It's a lot of cars going into turn 1 with not a whole lot of time to really get anything done. And it's lap 1, of course. You go into everybody's mind is make it through, or I want to pass people. Those are the only 2 things I've ever seen going through people's heads on the start of a race. So it could see some fireworks here as just the kind of nature of this track is firework inducing into turn 1 on lap 1.
It sure is. And well, Chazzo, are we going to see an amateur take this race win, or do you think the pros will kind of show their extra iRacing when it comes to the race?
I don't know, it's not one of those circuits, because of the huge straight, it's not one that demands as much racecraft as others. I reckon there is potential for an AM win. I just think that it depends on the overall strategy and how track position works out after the pit stops.
So the drivers can launch anywhere between the finish line and the start line. Now that probably means absolutely nothing to you viewers, because it's very confusing. It's a very long straight, but basically halfway down the straight they can go for it. We are approaching the checkered line, but we've still got a while to go. It's not that line, that's the DRS line, or the safety car line. It's actually even further down the straight before they can go. You can just see a very thin line there just before the bridge that the drivers will approach. So they're still crawling and crawling, but we will soon get this hour-long race away, and we are launching finally. Johnny Gebhard, the pole sitter, ahead of Thiago Marto. Watch out for the P2s in the background as well, but Gebhard has done what he needs to do. It's almost 4 wide in the background. It is going to be 4 wide in the background, as we've got a core sim racing driver, Sven Newman, storming down the inside. That's already a couple of places gained for Newman, but he wasn't quite able to get past Frank Schmitz. Poor start for Noah Cheer, who has dropped a couple of places. In the LMP2s, Anders Meyer starts to floor the throttle. You can just hear them in the background. Bogdan Moldovan trying to keep tabs with him, with his teammate Emmanuel Cachero right on his tail. We've got the 317 going to the inside. The teammates almost make contact. I think they might make contact just in the same vein they did at Road America, but they avoid too much disaster as Meyer is under big pressure as we head into turn 2.
Yeah, Meyer doing a good job off the start, but Moldovan, he does not want to give him any opportunity to disappear over the horizon. We've seen a few times this season that in the LMP2 Pros, the lead car can run away very, very quickly. And at the moment, it's just the two of them as down the inside goes Moldovan. Throws it down the inside into the hairpin, which is, funnily enough, just called hairpin. And then they go through again as Meyer's got the cutback on the exit. Fantastic stuff. One way, then the other. Bogdan Moldovan's got his teammate right behind him. That's Emmanuel Gachea from Walk Racing as well in the LMP2 Prams, and there's contact between the two of them. And I think there's a bit more contact further back. There is. Adakonis is involved. Harley Smith's involved as well. But wow, that could have gone absolutely to pot there, couldn't it, Morgan, with the two leaders making contact under braking?
Yeah, oh, and there's a little bit more contact back here. It's a really big choke point on the track. I was kind of thinking we would see something like this with coming into the chicane and then back into these two doubling back hairpins. It's big choke point, really a lot of speed coming into it, and you're side by side on lap 1. You're going to hold that, and there's not a whole lot of places to go.
Alison Lee Gebhard just about holding on right now against Thiago Marto. I know that says 2.4 seconds at the top, but Marto and Gebhard aren't in the same class, so this is absolutely full position. It's 4 points, and so it counts for a lot, does this fight. And Marto, whilst not having a whole lot of slipstream, there's barely any slipstream at all in these LMDH cars, as we're about to see on board, with Marto actually losing pace down the straight. Despite that lack of slipstream, he is still looking very racy and still looking very primed for an overtake.
Yeah, you've just got to be absolutely on it around here. And the thing is, like Morgan said, there is definite choke points here around this track. So you have to be ready to brake a little bit earlier, brake a little bit harder than you'd be expecting, because following another car in front here is really difficult. But look at the way this circuit undulates and turns one way, then the other. It's almost painful in cars like this, because you feel like you can't unleash the true speed of the thing. You can't get up to the high speed sort of capabilities of what this car can do. But after a couple of laps in the books already, Johnny Gebhard's looking good at the front of this field, isn't he, Morgan?
I think he's looking really strong right now. If I'm Marto, I'm going to be wanting to get around him pretty quick. I want to be leading this race. I don't want to have to follow anybody and react to what they do. And if they make a mistake, I don't want to be collected in it. So it's I think Gerhard's race to control right now. He's able to control pace. He's able to control how fast the field goes with because there's not really a whole lot of passing zones other than the front straight, and unless you really lick the stamps and just send it in there.
I wonder if there's going to be contact here between the teammates. No, it wasn't. Well, there was contact between teams, but it wasn't exactly Adakonis' fault. It was, I think it was Hardy Smith who made the initial contact. But how Chaz Meyer managed to survive that contact from Moldovan? We saw the damage from Moldovan, and yet Meyer was still able to get it stopped in time. Yeah, I really thought we were going to see him go straight across the chicane, but no, he had no problem.
Well, yeah, that's it. I think, I mean, I was expecting them both to go spearing off in both directions. They're so fragile, these cars, that, you know, it just takes one tap and all of a sudden that massive amount of grip that they've got just gets completely dissipated and the car will spit one way or the other, and they managed to get away with it. We did see Moldovan's car sort of get recalculated, let's say. You know, the damage sort of dented the front left in, and then it sort of thought, no, it wasn't that bad a hit, so we don't need to do that. And the sim then pushed it back out and sorted the bit of panel beating out for him. They've got Delatraz sat right behind them as well, let's not forget. It's not just a two-horse race, this one. Delatraz has been up there all season, and he's looking feisty right now. And just following on from these guys, just seeing what they can do in these final couple of corners on the lap, as Thiago Marto has got ahead of Gebhard now, so Sam can be happy that the pros are above the AMs in the overlay, and so can I and Morgan as well, I'm sure. But still, this is the thing, Morgan, at the front of the field like this, when your opening laps are underway and you're following on, oh, Marto's not ahead of Gebhard, so I'll eat my own words there.
Well,
Apologies.
we've got the best of both worlds now, haven't we?
We
It's
have.
coming up on, I mean, technically it's wrong, but, like, you know, I think this is a good thing.
Oh, God, I've heard that before from somebody. I can't remember her name. Morgan, with the top three in the LMP2 Pros, it's just a case of now identifying opportunity in these opening laps, isn't it? See where the other guys are compared to you in terms of pace, and then try and wait to pounce when it comes to the pit stops and strategy a bit later, because it'll be easy to follow due to that straight, won't it?
Exactly. If you're a following driver, it's you have to be watching the guys in front of you, seeing where you're faster, maybe where they're faster. I gonna wager a bet that they're all running slightly different setups, so they're probably gonna be faster in different parts of the track. So you have to recognize that and use it towards your advantage. And you can, if you're a following driver, obviously you can save a little bit more fuel by just kind of lifting and coasting into corners on the straight, using the draft to your advantage. So you'll be able to go a little bit longer, and then once the people in front of you pit, you get a little bit of clean air, and you can just hot shoe it to your pit stop. So there's a whole lot of strategy. There's a whole lot of analyzing that's going to be going on here in the next few laps.
This is fantastic to see. Our photographer, Lewis Ward, is going to be having a field day, because we've got 9 cars all in a row. On that last lap, well, yeah, on that last lap, out of the top 9, well, okay, on the previous lap before the last one, out of the top 9, the leader was the slowest one out of the top 9. They all were sort of just moving towards, and even on that last lap, he was barely faster than a couple of them. We did once again have a little bit of a grouping together. Absolutely incredible just how evenly matched the entire LMDH field. Apologies to the LMP2s. I know as the season's gone on, we've paid more attention to the LMDHs because that's where the action's been. I think we're going to see the same, because this is a lovely snake slaloming through the land of the rising sun. And by the way, it's very much the land of the setting sun tonight, because it will be getting quite dark, as that's a big slide for Gebhard. He pulled away slightly, but you can never be safe around that final sector, and over this very slippy Japanese tarmac was struggling to get the power down right there.
Yeah, it looked like he just struggled that extra bit there on the power, and these cars have this really horrible, lazy sort of four-wheel slide that you used to get from the LMP1s as well. And I know that as a driver it feels absolutely awful, and you really want to try and avoid it. Gebhard just pushing a little bit too hard there. To be fair, I was just about to say, I'm not really expecting Thiago Marto to have too much of a go at him right now, because a lot of these drivers in the middle of this snake are in that horrible situation, aren't they, Morgan, where you want to attack the car in front, but you've always got to consider that you leave yourself compromised to the car behind.
Exactly. You have to wait for a good enough opportunity where you can be 100% sure that you can get by the guy in front of you, because otherwise the guy behind you and maybe 2-3 more cars are going to come through, and you're going to be stuck offline, off in the dirty part of the track, and you're just going to get passed over and over and over again. You can't really slot back in line. So you have to be very careful and strategize and really wait for a mistake in the guy in front of you, because like I said before, it's the best passing zone is into turn 1 on the front straight, because otherwise, unless you get a mistake, it is very, very hard to just kind of throw it into the corner and not have it be contested.
Justin Adekonis has been able to get past Hardy Smith, and that was a very sort of edgy move, but he managed to get past. However, he has lost it again, and then he's gained it back again. So those two keep on switching around. In fact, Smith is now under big pressure from Emmanuel Kacher. Remember, Smith, second place in the amateur standings. These two haven't really raced against one another much in the second half of the season. It's very much been alternating. One's had a bad race, then the other's had a bad race. But this is nice that these two very evenly matched guys who have been switching and swapping the championship lead throughout the season are alongside. Or at least Kacher is trying to make them go alongside, as Smith has to leave a little bit of space. That's where he made contact earlier on in the event. Remember, he leaves a very tight line there, leaves space for Emmanuel Kacher, who's got the upper hand now for Walk Racing, and Smith trying to come back through the third sector. But for now, the 480 has got ahead, and he is now leading the LMP2 AM category.
Yeah, nice little wiggle on the exit there as well. You can really tell that these guys are pushing hard. Harley Smith wanting to take that back. And, well, to be fair, it's good to see that Harley's able to be right up there at the front of that pack based on the fact that he was involved in the earlier incident. Then again, it was Kacher that was involved in another incident as well, wasn't it? There was a few cars all having dramas there, and it's really thrown this LMP2 field wide open. But I think it makes it interesting for some of these drivers, because when they're on their own out there, this is Senna versus Mansell sort of stuff, that then, when they were just sort of daring each other to get closer and closer on the way down into turn one. But for some of these races, you know, a lot of these LMP2 drivers, they've had to plug on without having other cars around them as a reference. And I think, I mean, I'm better if I'm following the car in front, Morgan. I don't know about you, but I'd like to have cars around me so I've got a visual reference of whether I'm quicker or not. Do you agree?
Yeah, it's definitely helpful to have a guy in front of you or behind you. You can see, okay, I'm actually catching him through this corner, or I'm losing time. I need to work on this specific corner. So it's definitely helpful when you're just on your own, plugging away lap after lap after lap. The only really tell is if you're looking at the relative in the black box and you're seeing, okay, I'm losing a couple tenths, I'm gaining a couple tenths. Otherwise, it's very difficult to just kind of go and plug and plug and plug. It's I like to refer to it as a rabbit to follow. So if you get somebody out in front of you, you can kind of chase them. It motivates you a little bit more, and it's a lot easier to be consistent and push the car a little bit harder.
We have found out why Johnny Gebrard is doing so well, because Dominic Feel is supporting Johnny. Let's go, Johnny. Let's go.
Oh, he's not just got Daniel App to log into his iRacing account and do it for him.
Wow. Well, I mean, that is a reference and a joke, which only very knowledgeable sim racing fans will know. So, thank you for that one.
Sorry.
Thank you for that one, Chess.
I've really just cut the audience down there, sorry.
Yeah. No, to be fair, actually, I say that. I feel like that's very popular. Yeah, if you don't know what happened there, then Google it. It's quite a soap opera.
It is.
So to say. Kevin, apologies, Luis O'Raya has had an issue. He's had a spin, I think, down at turn 1.
Ooh.
That is a spin at turn 1.
That
be a
was
couple of
an odd
exits. Yeah. He was slightly offline. I think his teammate spun just in the background. I'm just hearing some tire screen. So that was some very sympathetic spinning. I have seen that we've got contact between Engelhardt and Cheyenne. I think that is Cheyenne actually defending. No, that's Cheyenne getting past. That is Cheyenne getting past Sasha Engelhardt, and that is him up into 8th place. Cheyenne up 4 places from his race. Like, he has been very quick. He's got race-winning pace, but these guys are fighting right now, losing each other time, and they're now 6 seconds off the lead, albeit Engelhardt already dropping a couple of car lengths behind.
Yeah, great fighting indeed. But yeah, you're right. It was a case of trying to sort of fight back from being overtaken for Kevin Cheyenne. He's gained 4 places in this race so far. Sasha Engelhardt has lost 2. As back down the inside again, late onto the brakes, trying to fit these 2 BMWs through the chicane is not easy at all. It's so tough down at Dunlop Corner. Back up the hill they go towards turn 13. Long right-hander. Then we've got turn 14 into Nets Corner at turn 15. Horrible corner, if you ask me. It feels just disgusting to drive cars like this around here because they're so long and so wide. Cheyenne's pushing on, but Kevin Dorgay's coming into this as well, his teammate for Delta V Racing. That could help him out, and it could also help, of course, Kevin as well. It's actually Kevin and Kevin, isn't it? Side by side then, and, well, Engelhardt gets a fantastic run there, Morgan. He really lined that one up beautifully, and that's part of it, isn't it? You have to just focus on your own lines there rather than sending it at each of those corners.
Yeah, you definitely have to be able to plan ahead. You have to follow just what you're doing instead of, kind of turning in when somebody else does, because when they turn in, it's going to be way too early for you, and you're going to sacrifice your exit. And especially coming through that last section, you have to open up the corner a lot on entry to maintain good exit speed, so you can get the best possible chance down this long front straight to get a pass done. So it's definitely very difficult.
These guys were previously matching the race leaders. On that last lap, they lost 2.5 seconds. Which really demonstrates just how much time you lose when you start to fight. But it's important fighting. I mean, it's not a case that they'll necessarily come back at one another time after time. The slipstream effect's so weak in these LMDH cars that you can make a move and start pulling away. So important is track position. Engelhardt starting to get a little bit away. And watch out for Jackwell as well. Always a driver who gets faster and faster as the race goes on. He looks after his tyres much better than the rest of the drivers. We saw that Hungarian when the drivers were super tyre limited, and we might well see that again tonight. Here, Thiago Marte, he's caught back up to Johnny Gebhardt. The gap was over a second at one point, and Marte nearly lost second place to Frank Schmidt, but he's been able to come back. But he's clearly running more slipstream as kind of as we were sort of identifying earlier on. In the race, as he's going to go down the inside here. They've got the back marker as well in play. Marto gets it stopped, but better on the power. It's the 2-for-1, and now he can use that better straight line speed to pull ahead. And as long as he's just got his entire car ahead going into turn 2, he should be alright. Has to still leave the apex vacant though for the race clutch driver on his inside. Now Marto storms round the outside through 300R, and he takes the lead in this race. And finally, after 15 minutes of waiting behind, he has taken his chance.
Yeah, lovely job. He had to get it done. And in the end of the day, he just made it all work so well. It's just one of those moves that just takes a couple of corners to get it right. You've got a bit of movement this way and that way. And it was a nicely executed manoeuvre when the time came. Here's side by side for second place, in the LMP2 Pros. This is Delatraz down the inside of Moldovan. Doesn't seem like he's got much of an overspeed though, but he's going to have the ideal line into turn 1, known as Daiichi. And he's not going to get rid of the overlap though, and I tell you what, he tries to squeeze Moldovan off the road there a little bit. Moldovan does slot in behind before they go through the left down at turn 3, which is Coca-Cola corner. And that alone, Morgan, is a very scary corner on this circuit because you're flying through it, a little left kink, but you're also going over a crest that gets away from you with AstroTurf and a curb on the exit. Really easy to upset a car around there.
Yeah, if you go too far inside, you're going to clip the inside curb and you're going to get popped like a foot, maybe 2 feet wide, and be over the AstroTurf, which there's significantly less grip as we see. Was that Fabio Grassetto going down the inside, or defending actually? But yeah, turn 3, very, very difficult corner. Car gets super unsettled if you don't follow one line just straight down the inside like that. It's very difficult to go too wide through there because the curb on the exit gets the car really unsettled. You get loose, and it's very difficult, especially in these cars. They get really low. You bottom out on the curb, and it just gets very exciting very fast.
Yeah, so many challenging corners around this circuit. And yeah, proper test it's surprising considering how tricky these corners are that the drivers are so close, and especially considering as well that the official season isn't visiting this week either, so they've all had to work independently on their setups, and yet still we've got this train of, well, not quite 9 cars. They have separated out a bit, and Thiago Marte now actually 1.2 seconds ahead. You can see he is starting to pull away, and that puts the pressure on Frank Smits, who's been really the bridesmaid a few times so far this season. He's had a 4th, a 5th, a 5th, a 3rd, a 4th, and a 7th. And so a podium would be very nice for him, I'm sure. And a 2nd place would be his best result of the season. But this is his best chance at winning a race so far, and so he needs to be getting past right away for Geodesic Racing, as we have got Krosny going again on Fabio Grassetto. He nearly made it 1 lap ago. This time he has got it done. That was excellent straight line speed. As we've got a spin around, it is our pole sitter Johnny Gebhardt, and that is a change for the lead in the LMDH AMS, and it must have been an attempted move then from Frank Smits, because Smits has lost out, and we've now got Sven Newman up into 2nd place.
Yeah, it's very easy to just snatch the rear axle on these cars. We said it earlier and in the season as well. I remember when Dane commentated on a couple of rounds, he said he's never seen a car rotate as quickly as these things do when the brakes go around. And look, oh no, there was contact actually. There was a little bit of contact, and I thought just Johnny might have just tried to go in a little bit too late on the brakes and just spun it around on his own, because it didn't seem like there was much damage on the car. but it just seemed like Frank Smits went a little bit deep into the right-hander. Johnny expected him to be really tucked into the apex, and there was a tiny touch. Not sure if Johnny turned in on him, but I mean, he's not come from miles back. It's just a little bit late as he comes off the brakes, but I don't think there was too much wrong with that, really, Morgan. It's just one of those moments, I guess, where there's a bit of miscommunication.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's more just of a racing incident than anything else. I think Frank got in a little bit deep. It looked like he was going to be off the apex a little bit, but it looked like his counterpart, I think Gebhard, was going to be off the apex a little bit even more. So it's just one of those things. You have to make a split-second decision, and sometimes it doesn't work out, and it's unfortunate, but I don't think anybody's truly at fault there.
So Gebhard down to 9th position. I know it is a little bit tricky to identify exactly where everyone is with the pro-anams divided like that. He's 3rd in class, but that is 9th on circuit overall. Of course, do check out the live timing link in the description below. You can click on that and have the positions of everyone for their overall position. It can be quite useful whilst you're watching along and compare the lap time. So he's got the momentum. This man's got the momentum right now because he's just set the his fastest lap of the race, albeit Sven Newman has gone faster earlier on in the event. But with all that messing about earlier on, it does mean that he's got a 3-second lead, does Kio Tiago Mato. But with 40 minutes to go, that's by no means decisive. And Newman has probably been saving a fair amount of fuel as well in the slipstream so far in this race, so he might be able to take a shorter pit stop later on. Quick shout out, by the way, to SDK Gaming, who are the ones who provide our overlay. We really have become accustomed to the WEC overlay, and I'm sure we'll be using it for many future series as well on the channel. This overlay, along with several others, all available with SDK Gaming, along with live timing. You can sync up your commentators' cameras to your broadcaster cameras, and some fantastic heads-up display as well for whilst you're racing. So do check out sdk-gaming.co.uk in order to get this suite of software. Yeah,
it's absolutely worth it. Does a hell of a lot for your racing, and even when it comes to the broadcasting side as well. You know, I've done broadcasts with SDK's gaming software for a long time now, and it's just fundamental for me at this point. It's brilliant, really is. And obviously, like Sam said there, with this World Endurance Championship overlay, we get so many beautiful ways to display all of the different classes to you, and each and every car. Look, you get their profile pictures as well, which you can upload to the SDK servers, and you get your driver helmet if not, and of course picture of your cars as well. I think one of the examples of sometimes when people don't put the masks on their iRacing liveries properly and cover up all the usual bits, that like the tyres are black, the headlights are black, and the grille and so on. I think it was I don't even think he's in this race actually. It was O'Shea, Rory O'Shea. I think his car used to glow completely green because they'd left the bottom layer of whatever livery he had on completely neon green. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here because Jack Wells, he's doing what he normally does here, Morgan. He tends to not qualify that well, but he just crawls up the order in the LMDH AMs. He leads the championship at the moment, and we've never really seen him run away with the race lead too much. So it's just a typical performance for Jack here, but somehow a championship winning one.
Well, it's always better, in my opinion, it's always better to race well than qualify well. And for some people, qualifying can be a very daunting task. It's difficult to kind of just go out and crack off a lap in 10 minutes. It's because you make one mistake, that gets in your head, and it's very difficult to shake. It's a whole mind game. Is really qualifying what that is. So I think Jack, obviously he races a lot better than he qualifies, and you know, as long as you're consistent and you do that often, as you can see, he gets a championship from it. So it's something that you really have to work on to be able to race as well as he does. It's quite impressive.
And quite a bit had a
You're
slightly
right there,
odd moment. Come on, Chaz, give me a break. Sorry. I had a slightly odd moment, as I'm not going to be able to talk about that because we've actually got action going on. It's Noah Chia is passing Fabio Grassetto. He's just about got it stopped, and Grassetto being stopped on the apex as well. Behind them is Sasha Engelhardt, who did lose out earlier on to Fabio Grassetto, but Chia gaining that pace as this race has gone on. Of course, he did qualify up in P3, but it was a poor start for Noah Chia. but he has been able to retake that position, and Grosseto has struggled with tyres so far this season. He was really struggling at Hungaroring last time out, and I wonder if we're seeing the same thing again, because now he's being overtaken by Sasha Engelhardt as well, and we can properly see who's got the better straight line speed, and well, at the moment, they look fairly similar.
Yeah, they are very, very similar, aren't they? As they head down towards turn 1 once again. Grosseto on the inside in the AM class, and Engelhardt on the outside in the Pro class. Of course, you get points for your overall position in your car class, so he will get more points for finishing ahead there, will Sasha Engelhardt. And I got them the wrong way around, didn't I? Engelhardt went down the inside of Grosseto.
You're right, Chaz. You're right.
Was I? Oh, yeah. Sorry, I looked away at the timing screen, then looked back again. I thought, wait, what? But they've got similar-ish liveries, these two cars. One's a little bit more black than red, but still. It's just one of those where the drivers now need to push on regardless of whether it's an AM or a Pro driver in front of them. And we've said it all season, Morgan, but it's one of the things that keeps racing like this exciting, you know? You don't just get the AM drivers jumping out of the way for the Pros.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody races each other. It's always better to watch people duke it out and go at it for a position rather than just kind of rolling over and letting people through. So it's definitely more interesting to watch a Pro and an AM go at it, and those kind of titles start to fade a bit when they're starting to go at it.
So cheer now 1.2 seconds, well, even more than that. I think a mistake there from Grosseto, and that gap going ever bigger. At the top of the LMP2 category, Anders Meyer 0.6 of a second ahead, but he cannot get away from Delachaz. Delachaz with a slightly odd season. He's been regularly just a step behind the absolute top guys in the LMP2s, apart from Spa, where he was exceptional. Meyer did have an issue which ruled him out of the race, but Delachaz was still faster than the likes of Adekonis and Corman and Moldovan, and was able to pull away in the latter stages to take a convincing race win. But this is certainly his second strongest meeting of the season for Delachaz, and he is staying right with them, and at Spa had very good tyre wear, so I wonder if the race will come to him later on. Unlike the MDHs, there is some draft in these cars, so staying just this distance away will be saving them a little bit of fuel, and it will be towing them along slightly, helping them out when it comes to their pace.
Yeah, that's it. You have to think about the fact that this is a long race. You know, some of them, they treat this like it's a 15-minute sprint sometimes, and we have seen drivers really wear out the tyres before and just attack the first portion of the race a little bit too much. But right now you can see that these guys are all sticking together, but Meyer is able to keep a really good pace at the front of this group. And that's exactly what's keeping him ahead at the minute, and what's keeping the guys with him is this humongous straight. We've seen that the slipstream effect in the LMP2s is a bit stronger than it is in the LMDHs, but it's not enough from that sort of distance, though, for Delachaz to go through. And then obviously you have to consider the different setups they're using as well. Sam mentioned earlier on that, you know, you can run different levels of downforce and different drag around here. I said earlier, didn't I, Morgan, it'd be a nightmare to set up a car around here. It just depends on what the driver wants, really, isn't it? There's no sort of right or wrong way when you've got a circuit like this.
Precisely. You really have to, the driver has to kind of feel it out. What do you prefer to drive? So I think a lot of people are going low downforce and kind of just hanging on through the technical bits, and just personally, I would choose a more low downforce setup, because for a race anyway, I would go high downforce for qualifying, low downforce for the race, just because a low downforce in the race, you get to really maximize the front straight, and if you're leading, it's hard to pass you, and if you're behind somebody, especially in the LMP2 cars, when you're drafting, you get so much extra straight line speed that it makes it that much easier to pass. You just have to, like I said, you have to hang on through corners. So it's a balance, and it's whatever the driver is comfortable with is really what they go for, because you can do a high downforce setup, you can do a low downforce setup. At the end of the day, they're going to do the same lap time, or roundabout the same lap time. So it's a juggle, and you have to just kind of pick your poison, really.
Of course, a good starter when it comes to setups is Apex Racing Academy. One of the sponsors for, thank you, Chess. One of the sponsors for the broadcast and for the championship. And of course, as we get closer to the season, as well, closer to the end of the season, we do get closer and closer to some licenses being given out to these drivers, some free subscriptions, which will be very much taken by many of the drivers. Of course, setups provided for both the LMDH and the LMP2 cars, along with GT cars, single-seaters, rallycross cars, and even NASCAR stock cars as well, being supported by Apex Racing Academy. So do check out their setups, their track guides, and their V-laps, O-laps, and group coaching sessions and solo coaching sessions, and all the other services that they provide at apexracingac.com. Definitely the place to go if you want to get faster on iRacing. As we see Sasha Engelhardt getting closer and closer now to Noah Chia. Remember, Engelhardt went with Chia when they both got past Grosseto. Engelhardt's getting stronger and stronger, and he's going to go for the overtake here. We haven't seen too much side-by-side action so far, at least in the LMDHs around this part of the circuit. And for now, it is Chia who stays ahead. And just a moment of side-by-side action like that immediately invites back Fabio Grosseto into the fight.
Yeah, that's it. We've seen a lot of that this season, haven't we? Because of how quick these cars are when they're on the right line. As soon as they're off that, they're so highly compromised. And all of a sudden you lose bucket loads of time. And it's amazing to see the spread of the nationalities at the moment in the field, because the top 6 drivers are all either German or Dutch drivers. And then we've got Fabio Grosseto and Kevin Chillon representing the rest of the world in terms of Italy and France in 7th and 8th. Says into the pits comes Noah Chia. He says, watch this, Chaz will say something about us all being German and I need to duck into the pits just to ruin that symmetry for him. So he jumps in, and it's a very early stop, but then again, it's going to give him decent track position, because we've seen a lot of them here following on from one another, Morgan, and they've just not been able to put down ultimate pace. So I think that could work for Noah.
Yeah, I think an undercut would kind of work a lot better here, since it, from the start of the race, since Marteau got around, I'm blanking. Since Marteau got around,
Gebhard.
Yes, Gebhard. Thank you.
Lewis
he's
tried
been
to
able
help
to
as
kind
well.
of check out. Yeah, there you go. He's been able to kind of check out, so I think clean air is definitely the way to go, since they were all in like an 8-9 car train. So I think clean air is definitely the way to go. Whatever little piece you gain with draft, you lose it in the corners, because everybody's kind of accordioning, especially through the final sector. So I think he's got the right idea to kind of come in early, do your stop, get that out of the way, and then push hard until the end, try and make up whatever time that you can. So I think definitely look for him. I'm gonna keep an eye on times, and we'll see how that plays out towards the end.
I would like to make a formal apology to Noah Schiller. Noah Schiller.
I would have thought it was Chia.
Exactly, and I will just say it's not Chaz's fault at all, because I did not tell him. I was notified about this after the previous round. I've been saying it wrong the whole season. I don't send any dead pigeons to Chaz.
I'll give you an address if you want.
It's my fault. I do apologise. I just remembered a couple of minutes ago. So yeah, apologies no for that. Next week we'll be sound on it. We'll
get it right for the last round of the season, Sam.
Yeah, there you go. And never come back to ARL ever again.
But what I was going to say is, now knowing that it's Chiller, that really does open up the book of puns, doesn't it? To be honest. So thanks, Noah. Much appreciated. We'll load that gun and wait for that one a little bit later. But the WS Racing Esports car, I must say, looks very, very good. So too does Sven Newman right now, 2nd place. But he's got Frank Smits all over the back of him. So I'm sure that he's not going to be as comfortable as he would like to be right now. And it's a shame not to have Pascal Stix up there as well, because Pascal Stix and Marcel Vandenberg did not start this race. So unfortunately for Core Sim Racing 1, they have not quite got the points haul that they would have wanted so far for this evening. As we see here, Bogdan Moldovan and Anders Meyer racing for 3rd and 4th in the LMP2 Pros. These two are both pitted so far. The 2 cars ahead of them haven't, though. Do you think that maybe, Morgan, with Delatraz now leading this class all out there on his own, 15 seconds clear of Adakonis, do you think there could be a bit of an effect similar to what you get with an undercut here, because he's got no one chasing him down and no pressure?
Exactly. I think definitely Delatraz can kind of just go out and drive. There's not really a whole lot of pressure. There's nobody around him. He can just focus on being consistent, focus on being fast, and he's matching. I mean, he's one of the fastest, if not the fastest. At last lap, he ran pretty much the same as what it was. It was only 0.3 slower than the fastest guy, which was Manuel Gasella last lap. So he's definitely got the upper hand right now. He's able to kind of just go out and run, and it serves the same effect as the undercut, because clean air is clean air, and I think that's what everybody's going to be trying to get after right now. So a lot of people in the middle of the pack can't really do that because they'll come out and they'll still be behind somebody. It'll be a different person, but they'll still be behind somebody, so it negates that effect.
That move for Malden that we kind of saw the tail end of on the previous lap, very significant because as you guys were mentioning, already pitting have these drivers, so effectively Malden probably in the lead, but as you were saying, like Delachaz should not be ruled out whatsoever. Here it was. Wow, this is a move, isn't it? These two have produced probably the best racing of the season. We've seen it at Monza, we've seen it at Sebring, and we've seen it now at Fuji, because that is mighty stuff. And Anders Meyer not needing really this position. He can afford to just finish second place to Bogdan in the remaining rounds. It's a big shame that Bogdan got that 40-second penalty last time out Hungaroring, otherwise he would have been right in there. It's still really good to see them fight for the race wins as they are, as we see Kacher move back to the lead of the LMP2 ARMS, but of course Orion still with a pit stops to serve, and Delachaz is into the pit lane, so this is going to be significant. And is Delachaz going to be able to stay ahead then of Moldovan and Meyer, considering he's been on lower fuel and these two have been fighting? I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, it definitely will be. These two now running down the start-finish straight. Delachaz on his way out. He's going to emerge on the right-hand side of shot, and I think... No, he's not.
Oh, wow, he lost 10 seconds. He was 10 seconds long station. Maybe he took tyres.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, we did say earlier that this circuit would be really tough on the tyres, to be fair, so I think maybe he could just see that as a bit of a way in to just try something different, because we've seen a lot of times this season, Morgan, that drivers have all not been copying each other's strategies, but they've seen what everyone else is doing and thinking, oh, maybe I should do that because that's clearly the safer bet. But you have to be sometimes that driver just to throw a little bit out there. You know, there's only 5 cars in the LMP2 Pro class. There's only 4 in the LMP2 AMS. The drivers need to take advantage of that, don't they, and mix up the strategies a bit just to see what sticks.
Exactly. I mean, it's very difficult to kind of just say, I'm going to try something different than everybody else, because it's the herd mentality. You see somebody do it and it works. It's the safe option. You just go with that and it's just going to work. It might be a little bit slower than the risky strategy, but I think Delachaz on new tires, he'll probably be able to make that work. And sometimes you have to what he's okay. the rejoin was quite good there, so he missed collecting those 2 cars. But you have to just throw things at the wall and wait for something to stick.
So Newman holding on to that position in second place. Smits losing out to Krosny. So good news for the Deutsche Payment Esports driver. Looks like they are going to get a driver on the podium. Of course, Krosny, your winner last time out. Yep, 2-time winner so far this season. I mean, Mate's only won 3 races, and Krosny has won 2, and he missed a round as well, Krosny. It's shocking that Mate has only won 3 out of 7 rounds, but I think Watkins Glen, he got wiped out, I want to say. And then Monza, he got wiped out from pole. Sebring, cannot remember off the top of my head. Maybe he had a qualifying ban or something. But anyway, he's been very strong. And of course, Hungaroring, he spun out from the lead with just a few moments to go as we got another driver into the pits. And it's Frank Smits. He's had enough. It's Newman. Slow down the straights. He's going to be under big pressure here from Krosny. And this is not the fighting that these guys need. Now that Smits has come into the pits, they need to be fighting against Smits. Locking that inside right was Newman, but he's got it stopped on a dime. And he should have the upper hand into turn 3. Now we have seen overtakes so far on the outside here. And we're going to see another one. Fantastic work. He's just about kept a wheel on the red and white curb, it looks like. So Krosny will not have to serve a slowdown. Still, however, Newman is not giving up. And he's got the inside into hairpin. And he does get back ahead, but this fighting is honestly pointless because they've definitely lost the position now to Smits, and you can see how they might even lose out to Sasha Engelhardt.
Yeah, they're really hindering themselves here. They don't need to do this, especially before the pit stops as well. Leave it till after the stops, boys, because look at this. It's just causing more and more drama, and now the teammates are involved in this. Engelhardt goes through past Krosny, and Newman's still in front of them. Newman's doing an amazing job at holding on to this, considering how much slower he is down the straights, and with the slipstream in addition to that, he's just putting the car in the right place at the right time, and now we can definitely tell that the sun has set and it's getting darker here at Fuji. 22 minutes to go here, Morgan. Do you think one of these guys is going to duck in now?
If I'm one of the guys in the back, I'm just now catching up to this big train. I think I'd be thinking about it if they don't start to sort up, line up, and not fight and leave. I would be wanting to leave this level of fighting towards the end of the race instead of getting it all out now. And I think we're going to see them start to single file because I think they've seen that Newman's not really wanting to give this up. He's going to fight it, so just kind of sit back. The lights have just come on, starting to get a little bit darker. This track is also going to start cooling down with that, so there's going to be more grip. It's going to be better on tires as well, so it's another thing to take into account.
One of the things I was going to say, sort of on the topic of it getting darker before I started splattering over my words and got rudely interrupted by something going on out on circuit, was this looks so much like it's going to rain. And for a moment earlier on, I did think, is it going to rain? Of course it's not going to rain. We don't have water in the iRacing universe. But when it does rain, I want this to be the first circuit, because between the trees and the mountains and the dark clouds, it looks like it's going to rain around this circuit whenever it's overcast. So that would be a request to iRacing, because and also obviously the fact that this place hosted about 3 Grand Prix and most of them were wet. Basically, this place needs to be wet 90% of the time once rain gets added.
Yeah, that's it. You know, there's not really anything better than Fuji in the wet, because we all remember that Grand Prix way back when, where Lewis Hamilton said it was one of his worst Grand Prix. It wasn't remembered by me for that anyway, but it was just one of those tracks and one of those sort of sets of conditions that threw up such a challenge for drivers and teams and everybody, that it's just completely necessary for us to run it like that in future and just throw the most difficult set out drivers.
I think James Hunt and Nicky Lauda are going to be showing you the finger right now.
Yes, probably.
Just, but
Yeah.
because that's the one I was thinking of. But no, absolutely fair enough. The 07 was a good race as well.
It was. I thought I'd maybe just make a bit of a different reference to the one that we might all jump on. No, I'm just saying I'm trying to cover my backside there, because admittedly I kind of forgot, but don't tell anybody. Morgan, what do you think? help me.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm just kind of drawing a blank now.
It's very tricky whenever whenever you're in a commentary box with a F1 anorak, and he will always correct you on whatever. Anyway, back to the racing. Wells just came into the pits, and he's back out in 11th place, behind Noah Noah Schiller. Come on, Sam, you got this. Schiller up to 10th. Wells in 11th place now in the LMTH overall, but still the top 8 in the LMTH category still need to come into the pits.
Yeah, that's it. There's still quite a bit needs to be sorted out here and finished up for these drivers. And that's the beauty of these races. You know, these pit stop windows can actually go on quite long. Some of the drivers really do stretch them out as far as they can, and others like to go for the undercut, know exactly where they are in terms of track position a little bit earlier on, and then just push and get the job done with the pace. You can see the speed and size difference here between the massive BMW compared to the little Dallara P217 that it is chasing down. This is Jack Wells of Beast Racing, 4th in the LMDH AM class at the moment, and he's trying to put a lap on Bogdan Moldovan. But just like we were saying at the top of the broadcast here, Morgan, until they get onto the straight, there's barely any difference between these cars around there, is there? There's nothing the BMW can do about the little Dallara.
Exactly. They're kind of just stuck. I mean, they've got the same, very, very similar cornering speeds, and especially through the slower corners, the downforce isn't doing all that much, and they have, pretty much the same tire, so there's the same amount of grip, and you kind of just have to wait until you can use the grunt of the BMW. And if I might add something about Noah Schiller.
You got it. I mean,
yeah, Schiller. Yeah.
We've got a 10% success rate.
There you
You've
go.
got 100% right now. Congratulations.
That's true. Hopefully, I'll be able to carry that to the rest of the broadcast. But I'm looking at times, and he has been running. The only person faster than him has been Marteau, pretty much across the board. Last lap, he was a little bit slower, just about 0.3 off of everybody around him and directly in front of him. But on most other laps, he's been matching, if not a 10th or 2 quicker a lap. So it's something interesting to see once everybody else stops.
That's a really, really good spot because, yeah, everyone, so many drivers do need to stop. And, you know, him and Smits, the top 2 drivers who have already come into the pits in this race. I mean, Schiller came into the pits very early. As the Deutsche Payment esports drivers make their way out to the pits, are they going to be ahead of Smits? No, Smits is miles ahead. Smits is a long way ahead. They both didn't take tyres, I believe. There are only 10 and 11 seconds. I think it's 14 seconds to take 2 tyres and then about 25 seconds to take 4 tyres. And so that has worked brilliantly well for Frank Smits, who you would think will be in second place when all that is sorted out. Schiller still behind those 2 though. However, not a whole lot behind. And yeah, there's no difference in tyres. Sure, Schiller came into the pits earlier than these guys, but seeing that no one took tyres, there's not any difference there. So Schiller's not at a disadvantage whatsoever. We've still then got the top 6 to come into the pits in the LMDHs, and we are really reaching the limits of what the fuel tanks will manage.
Yeah, definitely. There's going to be a couple more stragglers now that manage to make it into the pits, but really eke out every last bit of the fumes that are just lingering in the fuel tanks of these cars now. They're clutching at straws in a lot of places. Frank Smits in 5th position, but look at that, 50 seconds off the top spot at the moment. That's just the spread that you get from these pit stops. Of course, it's so hard for the drivers to judge how far ahead they are and sort of what they've got in their back pocket as a bit of a gap, for example, to the cars behind that have had a pit stop. It's really something that you need to not try and worry too much about when you're racing around here, because if you do start focusing on that way too much, then all you're going to do is just harm your own race and harm your own mental state, aren't you, Morgan?
Exactly. You have to just be able to keep cool, keep calm, and it was a good save by Grassetto not to go around, just locked it down, and no contact. Good from the driver behind him to miss him. I believe that was
Cheyenne,
yes. So good save there by Grassetto, but it's very difficult. You have to be able to keep calm, keep cool, and just kind of drive your own race and not really get affected by anything else that's going on. As Marto is now coming into the pit lane, first of the top 6.
Yeah, maybe that's a sign that everyone else is going to come into the pits. No, it's not. So Newman continues, so does Cheyenne. So these guys maybe with a little bit of a draft, because obviously Marto took the lead 15 minutes in and has been leading ever since, so punching a hole in the air. These guys with a little bit of a draft, but with Newman's extra drag, I thought maybe he would use a little bit more fuel. But really, the way that the fuel is calculated in iRacing is by how much throttle input you use. Sometimes in real life, of course, you'll see drivers short shifting, but it's not really a thing in iRacing. It's lifting and coasting if you're going to save any fuel, which is the way to do it. There goes for Grassetto as well, who spun just before his pit stop back at Hungaroring, and he's done the same thing again, and it was very costly at Hungaroring, and he'll be hoping it's not the same thing again. At least he only lost sort of 2 or 3 seconds, but is a sign that maybe Grassetto is using up his tyres a bit more than others, which is something we've seen so far this season, as I think Fabio Grassetto has sped in the pit lane because he is still stationary. It's up to 30 seconds, and Fabio Grassetto's championship hopes, whilst already slim, are really being decimated right now. What frustration. We've seen this before, Chaz, and it's frustrating that Fabio is not going to be able to take this to the last round of the championship, because he's had the pace, honestly, on Jack Wells as we go side by side for the LMP2 race win.
Yeah, we do indeed, and side by side is the order of the day here, because these two once again providing us with fantastic battling, and they have been so exciting all season long, and they continue to be. As round the outside goes Bogdan Moldovan. Amazing commitment to carry it around there. We've seen a few drivers try it before now, but not quite nail it through that part of the circuit. And I tell you what, they've just got such amazing commitment around this whole track. And the thing is, you've got to be so careful around here. You really do. There's not much that you can sort of give up and have sort of going wrong, because it's one of them tracks that really demands a lot from you, even in the slow stuff as well as the fast stuff. Anders Meyer, though, he just seems so determined, doesn't he? No matter where you see him, Anders is always the one that's right near the front of this pack. Just so quick all the time. There's nothing that slows him down.
So the rest of the drivers making their pit stops. Dorgay was one of them, and everyone pretty much the same length of pit stops. The shortest pit stop actually is Sven Newman, 10 seconds. managed to shave about half a second to 2 seconds out of the rest of the drivers. So the order now is Johnny Gebhard. He's back to the lead. It's back like we started this race, but Gebhard does still need to make a pit stop. So in reality, it's Marteau leading the way. Smits up into second place with that early pit stop. So pitting 4-5 laps earlier than everyone else means that Smits now is up into second place ahead of Newman, who of course was fighting very strongly against a couple of other drivers earlier on. I think it was Kevin Crosney he was fighting very hard with. Crosney in 5th place, then it's Engelhardt, then it's Schiller, who will be the lead of the LMDH AM drivers once Gebhard comes into the pits. And Gebhard is into the pits, and the man who has led about 17 minutes of this race, Johnny Gebhard, which is a massive achievement. Unfortunately, he had contact earlier on, which was not his fault. I think it was Sven Newman who sent it on him and touched him round. Gebhard will be exiting out the pits, I would have thought, in about 8th position, which is just a shame because yeah, the field is so tight tonight. Usually that issue would only put you down into 3rd or 4th, but yeah, just unlucky tonight.
Yeah, that's the thing. You have to make your own luck sometimes in these sorts of races, though. There's a long time for it to go wrong, but there's of course a long time for it to go right as well. If you are in the rhythm, it means that you can extend a bigger gap. It means that you've got more time to chip away at any gaps from your rivals. As Johnny Gebhard comes out of the pits now, second in the LMDH AMS, as Schiller leads it at the minute. That was so close there between Johnny Gebhard and Kevin Chillon. I was sort of holding my breath for a moment there, and even nearly pronounced Noah Schiller's name wrong. But still,
you did.
oh yeah, I said Schiller, didn't I?
Yeah.
Oh, flipping it. I'm sorry, Noah. I really am. But to be fair, these guys are going to battle like mad all the way to the end now. Just over 10 minutes left to go. And really, it's going to matter points-wise, isn't it, Morgan? Because like we said before, if you can score just a few more points than some of your rivals further down in the AM class, for example, or if Chillon can take a few points away from some of the pros, they may as well go for it, haven't they? Because it makes a difference whether it be a pro or an AM car you're overtaking. There's, off the road there. What on earth was that? It was Adaconis.
Yeah, of course, every point matters. I've seen so many championships come down to 1-2 point gaps at the end of the season. So if you can have an opportunity to pass somebody regardless of class, it's definitely worth it. It looks like Adaconis just got in a little bit deep, maybe some grass involved as well. But yeah, if you can and you have the opportunity to, it's definitely worth it. Every point matters.
Yeah, I was almost taking out Noah Schiller, 6th place overall and leader of the LMTH AMS, and yeah, did a decent job at avoiding. And of course, like cutting across that chicane, I think gives you a very big slide and hence his desperation to keep on taking the left-hand up. There is Schiller 3 seconds ahead of Johnny Gebhard. Keep an eye on those lap times. Keep an eye as well on Alexander Delachaz's lap times, because remember, Delachaz took 10 seconds longer as pit stop. Now, as far as I'm aware, all the LMP2 cars have taken tyres, probably rear tyres. However, Delachaz, I think, took 4 tyres, so he took front tyres as well. So too did Sam Coleman, actually. He's having a good race, Coleman, one of his best races of the season. He's only 10 seconds off the lead, Coleman. But unfortunately, once again, the field is so close tonight that that just happens to be down in 4th place. But right now, Delachaz is about 1/4 of a second lap faster than these top 2. If the top 2 start fighting, Delachaz will be able to get himself back into play. And we had seen it, certainly at Hungarian last time out, the tyres can go off a lot in the closing stages. So do not rule out the Frenchman for his 2nd race win of the season. Whilst Moldman is leading the way, you know that he's going to fight that one to the death. And so there is the threat of them really losing each other a lot of time. At the moment, though, the gap is 9/10 of a second, so they're very much just driving in tandem right now.
Yeah, that's the thing. You've sometimes got to settle into a bit of a rhythm and just follow the car in front of you. And to be honest with you, it can make it a little bit easy in the later stages of a race when your car might not feel great, but you can still sit behind somebody, take advantage of the slipstream, and that adds or takes off a few tenths from your lap time. Anyway, look at the sky here. It's almost like we're back at Lava Land on the original Tucker Touring Cars game on PlayStation 1. Really red sky here at Fuji, looking beautiful. And these conditions now, certainly only those that you could get in Japan. It looks great, doesn't it? As down towards turn 1 goes Delachaz. And he's not really going to be able to do much about Maya unless there's a mistake from Anders, because we know how consistent Meyer is, although then again, I should maybe try and avoid the commentator's curse where possible. But Bogdan Moldovan's only got about a half-second lead at the moment in the LMP2 Pros. Delatraz looks like he's pushing hard though, but then again, Morgan, these cars are quite complementary to anyone's driving style, aren't they, when they're being driven quickly enough?
This is true. I mean, watching a world record holder going around versus somebody who's like a second off, they look very similar. The car, it just looks like it's on rails a lot of the time. But I think what's interesting is that if Meyer's able to get up to the back of Moldovan, and we've only got about 6 minutes left in this race, I think they're going to start to fight, and they're going to start to fight pretty hard. And Delatraz, even in clean air, a few laps ago, he was about a second faster, then he was about a half a second faster, and he's still running a tenth, 2 tenths, maybe even 3 tenths faster per lap. So if Meyer and Moldovan start to fight, I think Delatraz could be there in a hurry. And, he took all 4 tires, whereas the 2 in front of him have only taken 2 tires. So he's going to be able to throw it into corners a lot harder, and he's going to be able to get out of corners a lot better. So I think if he gets there, I think he'll be able to get it.
Final shouts out to Virtual Racing School, another sponsor for this broadcast. Virtual Racing School, of course, offering data packs for over 50 cars in iRacing, along with having a fantastic range of hardware. Do check out their pedals, their wheelbase, and their new wheel rim as well over at vrs.racing. Really the best stuff you can get for the price range provided by Virtual Racing School. Absolutely. I absolutely agree with Delatraz catching up in 3rd position, down to 4 seconds now. Keep an eye on that timing tower. It will be getting close. 5 minutes of this race remaining. Still Marto leading the way by 8 seconds, and not really too many battles in the LMDHs. There's a very good chance that we're going to see a repeat of Spa, where everyone's just going to congregate on the last lap, and we're going to have an absolutely mad lap, because currently the gaps are 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. And so everyone's just a little bit spread out, but all it takes is maybe a back marker, or maybe a mistake, or maybe just a bit of the tires going off, and we could have a fantastic fight with a couple of laps remaining.
Yeah, definitely there is potential for it. We'll have to just wait and see what the drivers make of it, and who can just sort of churn out the fastest lap times at this point, because we've seen it over the course of the season that some of them really do come alive in the last minutes of the race, and other drivers maybe drop off a little bit, or maybe they might have tried to go a bit short on fuel, hoping for some slipstream to drag them to the end, and they may just be running on fumes come the last few laps of the race. We look here at Kevin Cheyenne in the Delta V Racing machine. He's got also French Kevin Dorgay behind him, Delta V Racing as well. The 2 teammates making their way now into the very tight chicane near the end of the lap. Feels painful in these cars, because you just want to be flooring them around really long, high-speed corners like Daytona or Circuit de la Sarthe. That's where they're really at home. But it's great to see these cars sort of struggle a little bit in certain corners like this, isn't it really, Morgan? Because it's a little bit out of their comfort zone, but it just looks all the more exciting for us, because, the drivers will really struggle with this because it's not what they're used to.
Exactly, and I mean, it's a lot of car to fit through a very small place. The BMW is not small, so it's interesting to watch them come into really slow, tight corners. Watch them squirming on the brakes, squirming on the power, as you're just trying to get out of the corner as fast as you can. You want to get away from it, so you can do it again in about a minute and a half. But it's definitely difficult. It's interesting to watch, because these cars, you're trying to throw it in as late on the brakes as you can. They're more likely to lock up rears than they are fronts, just because that's how a lot of people they map the brake bias to lock rears instead of the fronts. Because with the fronts, when you lock up front tire, you just go straight, and then when you lock up a rear tire, it might actually help you go through the corner a little bit better. So it's interesting to watch these cars go through these corners.
Absolutely. As we run on board with Sasha Engelhardt behind his teammate Kevin Krosny, and this was the way that these two finished last time out, but 3 places further up for each of them. Krosny taking that surprise race win ahead of Engelhardt, as Engelhardt's tyres disintegrated in the closing stages. We'll see on this lap what the time difference is. Engelhardt is catching up, half a second faster on that last lap, but I think the big question is, are they catching up to Newman, which would make it worthwhile for Engelhardt to overtake Krosny. They cross the line, and they're all fairly similar. Once again, Engelhardt the fastest, but only by a tenth and a half, which in these cars probably isn't even enough in order to mount an attack with the turbulent air you got and with the lack of slipstream that you've got as well. Of course, Krosny currently ahead in the championship, but only in 6th place, but not fighting for anything especially lucrative. At the head of the LMP2s, 9/10 of a second is the gap. Might be that Meyer is happy just to take 2nd place. He doesn't need the points, remember, he went into this round with a strong lead. And well, if he could finish like he is now, he would just need really a finish next time out at Barcelona in order to confirm the title. But we might see that inner racer in him try to come out, as these guys still 4 seconds ahead of Delachaz, who's failing to make much of an impression in the last few minutes.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, Meyer will just sit in 2nd. He knows that the battle is maybe not worth it. You know, we've seen some admittedly pretty scary moments between himself and Bogdan Moldovan over the course of the season, and we've seen, especially from the 2 walk racing drivers, that they will do a lot to defend a position. You know, they will really get close to their competitors, and even if Anders could catch up enough here, I think he might just think, no, I'm not going to really try it that hard to, you know, go chasing after this guy, because he knows it's just more risk than potential reward, and it'll just make his job harder when it comes to the end of the season. But Thiago Marteau, well, he's done the job here. It's been another sort of strangely under-the-radar performance for a race leader here, Morgan, but it's just another solid example of what Thiago Marteau does best.
Yeah, I mean, he took the lead about a quarter of the way through the race, and then ever since has just been plugging away. Completely uneventful. He hasn't done anything like, I don't want to say noteworthy. That's not really the right word, but
no, I know what you mean, though.
He's just been so consistent. He hasn't done anything spectacular. He's just gone away. He's just run away, been consistent, and he has what a 9-second gap right now. So he's just been incredible tonight.
And he's going to grow his championship lead as well. It was 21 points going into this round over Pascal Stix, and with Stix not even taking to the grid tonight, it's going to be pretty much unassailable. He'll still need to turn up at Barcelona, he'll still need to score a smattering of points, but he's very much got a hand and a half on the trophy. And in a dominant show here at Fuji is going to be the race clutch 1-2-2 of Thiago Marteau to take his 4th race victory of the season at round 8 at Fuji. He takes the spoils. It's going to be ahead of his fellow countryman Frank Smits, who gets his first 2nd place of the season. Sven Newman will move up into 2nd place in the championship with that 3rd position tonight, with Krosny and Engelhardt close behind. Schiller is going to take the LMDH AM win ahead of Johnny Gebhardt, who will feel frustrated after being taken out in the early stages from the race, from 2nd position, but still a fantastic performance from both of those Germans after a particularly incredible qualifying. Jack Wells steps closer to the championship title. Was he just set the fastest first sector of anyone? Must have had a mighty draft heading down the pit straight. And on the last lap, you know, he always keeps his tyres in good shape, and he needed it for that final lap. Bogdan Moldovan, for Walk Racing, he is going to take another race victory. It's not probably going to be the title for him after that mistake at Hungaroring, but still puts that behind him, and that is a very satisfying race win for the Romanian.
Yeah, I'll be over the moon with that. He really will be. He was 3rd in the championship going into this 2nd win of the season. It's only the 4th time he's been on the podium. Sorry, 5th time he's been on the podium, actually, to be fair. And he does a great job of it. Very well done indeed. And behind him was Anders Meyer, getting one hand on the trophy as well with another 2nd place. He's only finished off the podium once this season. And here comes Emmanuel Gachea. He's going to take the win in the LMP2 AM category. And to be fair, I think that's going to almost wrap up the title for him, because Harley Smith is not going to finish the race. So it's going to be a very, very happy Emmanuel Gachea for Walk Racing tonight. That's going to be his 5th win of the campaign. His lowest result is 4th. He's had 2 2nd places along the way as well. And Louis Araya, it's not quite close enough. But there's your race winner, Morgan, Thiago Marteau. Like you say, it may not have been noteworthy, but at the end of the day, he got the job done.
Yeah, exactly. He went around, he plugged, and just been super consistent. Now he's got the victory donuts, so very, very well earned. He's just been, I mean, that is textbook, is what that is.
Some good donuts. I always complain that the drivers haven't learned to write stuff in the tarmac. I think that would be fantastic. We have a blimp view, but I don't think he spelled out a sentence there. So, a 9 maybe for that effort. Maybe could work on that in the off-season, because frankly, when it comes to his pace, he's pretty much nailed it as Chieti Agamato. Another race victory for him, 8 seconds clear of Frank Smits. Newman, Krosny, Engelhardt, Schiller was top of the AMS. There was Johnny Gebhard, Kevin Cheyenne, Kevin Dorgay, Jack Wells, very under the radar and a little bit detached as well, but he still beats Grissette, who had that stop and hold for speeding in the pit lane, we believe. However, whilst he would have beaten Wells 40 seconds, he would have probably been behind Dorgay anyway. Just a very competitive field, and so Grissette, chances are, didn't lose that many points tonight due to that mistake. And then it was Guillaume Kempfer in 12th position. In the LMP2s, Bogdan Moldovan won out for the second time this season, ahead of Anders Meyer, Alexander Delachaz, Sam Coleman, Emmanuel Kacher, one step closer to the title. Justin Adekonis in 18th place overall. There's Luis Oraya, Paul Joseph Clist, Harley Smith was retired. So too did Mark Zoidov. And then the drivers who did not take the start were Pascal Stix and Marcel van den Berg. Big disappointment that neither of those two took part, because I think they would have been right in there near the front of the field, both of which have got podiums so far this season. Stix even winning a race earlier on this season. And so that already competitive train of 9 cars that we saw in the early stages, I am sure they would have been appending onto that. We will have a chat with some of our drivers. I first am going to have a chat with Bogdan Moldovan, who now joins us in the commentary box. Bogdan, well done on another race victory. And, well, let's just get straight to it. That battle with Anders. I mean, we see it most weeks from you guys. And this week, it looked like a particularly great move from yourself. On the outside of turn 3, you must have been smiling from ear to ear when you made that move.
Yeah, indeed. I was expecting it because Myers got out of the pit, so he had cold tires. Mine were 1 lap warm, so I had confidence in the car that it will stick to the outside. So yeah, I tried as fast as possible to try to pass him and then to do my pace.
Definitely. How was it in those closing stages? Because we saw a couple of drivers take tyres, or all 4 tyres, whilst it looked like you and Anders only took the 2 tyres. Was that tempting for you to go for that strategy?
Yes, indeed, because it was such a cold environment, like 20 degrees Celsius, so tire degradation wasn't as high, so we could manage to only change 2 tires, but still on the end, the car was a bit very understeery because the front doesn't grip anymore. So yeah, it was, I wouldn't say it was a risk because I did my homeworks and tested with 2 tires, but yeah, 2 tires was the way to go in those conditions.
Yeah, looks absolutely correct for yourself. And next time we go to Barcelona. Personally, I really enjoy that circuit in these LMP2 cars. What do you think of it?
Well, I don't know. I never raced in Barcelona in iRacing, so it's I know the track from Formula 1, and I'm gonna try to test it and see how it goes.
Awesome. Well, we wish you the best of luck for that one, Bogdan. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yes, to the team manager who helped with the strategy today. To my family, my friends, and also a special shout out to my cousin Dragos from UK.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Bogdan, and we'll see you back next week.
Thank you.
Bogdan Moldovan there for Walk Racing, your race winner in the LMP2s tonight. Chaz, who do you want to have a chat with?
Or why don't we have a chat with... why don't we bring in Noah Schiller? I'm actually going to get it right.
Oh,
this time.
they're up on their feet at home, Chaz.
I'm getting a standing ovation. Noah, welcome to the commentary box, my friend. Quite the busy night for you in the LMDHs. And I mean, it looked like a fantastic train to be a part of in the early stages, but maybe not an easy circuit to overtake at. How was it from your perspective?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, first of all. Yeah, that was a really close race. I mean, you could see it from the qualifying times that the whole field in LMDH was really close on pace. So after quali, I thought, man, this is gonna be a close race, and yeah, it turned out to be exactly that way.
And with Johnny Gebhard at the front at the very start of the race on pole position, did you think that, because of the slipstreaming, there would be a lot of shuffling around of positions and that you'd get right to the front of the field, or was it just a case of you never know with these cars and you'll have to see what comes your way?
I just went and saw how the first laps went, so I didn't have a plan going into the race. I just thought, let's see what happens, and as it turns out, because of the DRS, the slipstream train, overtaking was actually quite hard.
It certainly looked like it, and there's a few sections on this circuit that they're not exactly the favourites of these cars. I mean, some of the last chicanes and hairpins and things, it looked really difficult to get the car to behave round there from the outside, but what was it like from the inside of the car? Did it feel okay?
Yeah, exactly as you see it. When I started practicing for Hungaroring, I thought, okay, Hungaroring isn't really a car that suits the LMDH well, so I thought it's gonna be difficult there. But as it turned out, in Hungaroring, I found a rhythm really quickly, and the exact opposite happened here at Fuji. I thought, okay, Fuji,
right.
this would be like the perfect track. This would really suit the LMDH, but it was actually very difficult to find a good setup and to find a good rhythm in this car.
Well, you still got the result either way, Noah, and with one more round of the championship left to go, are you confident going to Catalonia?
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of races went pretty well, so yeah, I'm kind of confident. But let's see what happens. I think the other guys will really be up on their feet for that last round. So yeah, let's see what happens. But I will give everything.
And who is it you want to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Basically, my whole team.
Lovely stuff, and the car looks great, by the way. I really do love the GT branding on the WS Racing Esports car, so let's hope it continues to go as well as it looks, shall we?
Thank you very much.
Cheers, Noah. There we go then. Noah Schiller. There we go. Finally got it right. And I didn't even make a pun about his name tonight, Sam, so surely I've got to get a bit of extra money off Lee or something.
Yeah, because I mean that you're earning hundreds a week, aren't you, from us? Not get telling puns. So no, you've absolutely cashed in tonight. We have got one more interview to go, and it is with Anders Meyer, and he is standing by with Morgan.
If we drag him in.
There
you go.
There we go. Hello, Anders. So I just first of all, I'd like to ask, you were following around Bogdan Moldovin towards the end of that race. What was kind of your thoughts going through that? How was the raceability? Is what I'm really asking. Like, were you struggling with 30 air and really trying to get really close to him to make a pass, or?
Yeah, I was struggling the whole race. We had an incident where he braked a bit too late in the chicane on lap 1. Which damaged my rear wing, so I had damage half the race, and it really it didn't do too much on the straight, only a couple of kilometers, but the worst thing was the understeer that I noticed. So my front tires were much more worn than I had predicted, so that made the race a bit more difficult. But so at the end, my front left was completely gone. I think it was 3 laps or so left, and I tried to brake a bit later into T1 to gain, and the front left locked up because it was finished. So if I don't know, if I had planned for getting damage, I might have taken 4 tires, but yeah, that's just how it goes.
Well, yeah, then big congratulations for holding on that long with the damage and being able to finish within a second of Bogdan. So again, congratulations on that. Next round is Catalonia. How are we feeling for that one?
I don't know. I haven't driven that track a lot. I have much more experience here, so it will be it'll take a bit more practice. I also have another league starting on Tuesday, so I have to combine 2 different cars. So we'll see. I'll just have to try to save in the championship and not think too much about the results. like today, I could have been more aggressive towards Bogdan, but it's not worth the risk at this stage of the championship. So I'll just have to do the same strategy on Catalunya and go safe and try to bring it home.
Well, yes, that's a good mentality to have. And before we let you go, is anybody you'd like to say hello or thank you to?
Yeah, obviously Racing Lab, esports, KTM, CarX.no, Winstrom Motorsports Arena, and I have to give an extra shout out to Azatec and the Racing Lab for this one, because there's some new sim gear coming my way from them. So big thanks to them for believing in me, and thanks to you guys for the broadcast.
Well, awesome. That was Anders Meyer, everybody from Racing Lab Esports. It was nice to talk to you.
Awesome. So, well, whilst Anders didn't win the race, he's certainly winning when it comes to sim racing, because that'll be some very nice equipment going his way very soon. That pretty much wraps us up then for tonight. Of course, we have got one more round of the championship remaining next time out at Barcelona for round 9 of the championship, where we are going to see those titles be decided. Of course, plenty more action coming up on Apex Racing TV in the next few days. Tomorrow we've got the return of the Apex Racing League Clio Cup and the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup. We've also got Apex Racing Academy Formula 4 on Saturday, got Spec Racer Ford on Sunday, got Radicals as well, the official series, on tomorrow as well, and plenty more stuff going on throughout the week on Apex Racing TV. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and also check out our social media pages as well, where we're constantly posting up highlights of all the Apex Racing League events which are going on. That is on all of the main platforms: Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And TikTok, actually. If you check out Apex Racing UK, you can occasionally see some of those highlights as well on TikTok as well. Big thanks to Virtual Racing School, to Apex Racing Academy, and to SDK Gaming for sponsoring this broadcast. And of course, thanks to Chaz and Morgan as well for accompanying myself, Sam Fitzpatrick. But we are going to say goodbye, and we will see you back for the season finale at Barcelona in the Apex Racing League Prototype Championship next week. See you then.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.